the way I see it is basically, having the freedom to really do your function, which is, building the brand, creating demand for the solutions that, the brand would offer. Uh, Now, if you were to really ask me, is independence in marketing essential? I would say it's a yes and no. The reason I say that yes, because it is a specialized sort of function. It is a function which is very close to the brand and understands the brand, and needs to have that expert view and the in-depth sort of analysis to be done here. But at the same time, I would say that it cannot be done in isolation, because a brand is essentially uh, you know, is something is sort of it's an ecosystem. It influences many stakeholders, not just your consumers, but also your internal stakeholders, which is your employees, your channel partners, the regulatory authorities, and multiple other entities. So from that perspective, it's important that the marketer gets that holistic view, understands what's happening, whatever changes the marketer does, how will it influence that set of stakeholders is something which is very important. And that's where the reason that the alignment is required in something as an independent function may not really work. The other angle, if you look at it from, is the consumer lens. Now, again, a marketer is somebody who's the closest to the consumer. In fact, it's you are the gatekeeper as a marketer to say that, okay, this is what the consumer wants. This is how the consumer behavior is changing over a period of time. But at the same time, if you see certain other functions like your customer service, for that matter, or for that matter your business team, those who go to the market, who are talking to the channel partners, and through them interacting with the consumer, they also bring in a lot of insights. They bring in inputs in terms of what the changing trends are. So again, it's important that you look at it from a holistic perspective. The marketer brings in his or her own expertise, the specialized lens that one would view the consumer behavior, the consumer trend through. But at the same time, also look at what are those inputs coming from the other stakeholders, which could be material at times. So I would basically put it in that. One area I would still say that independence in marketing makes a big difference is your communication aspect. And there I would say the framework which I follow is actually the WMHW framework, which essentially is the first W is about what to communicate. The M is about how much to communicate. The H is about how to communicate, and the W is about when to communicate. And here I think it's important to get that independence, because the moment you have multiple stakeholders, different entities coming saying, and this is what we should talk about, this is what we should talk about, you essentially end up in the trap wherein you're saying a lot of things, but the poor consumer is not able to understand because of the basic reason that you are saying so many things. And when you look at brands which are very, very strong, whether it's in India or globally, you clearly see that the moment the messaging is very precise, the messaging is very concise, the messaging is very sharp, it leads to a lot more effective communication. So that's where I would say yes, independence in marketing, independence in communication makes a lot of sense. For me, it's a three-step process that I really look at in terms of getting the best independent thinkers in my function. First, it starts at the beginning itself when you're taking somebody on board, right, at the recruitment stage. And I think what I really look forward to at that time is the attitude of the person of wanting to think independently and doing things differently. At times you come across people who are like, okay, you tell me what is to be done and I'll do it for you, or I'll get it executed. That's where I think the first red flag comes up, saying that is this person in fact even tuned or aligned to the fact that he or she wants to think independently. So I think that is the first important stage which I look at, that when you're taking somebody on board, what's the sort of attitude the person has. And as all of us know, that it's more about the attitude rather than the skills of the person. You can still teach skills to a person, you can't really teach attitude to a person. So I think that is the first stage for me. The second, I would say, in terms of grooming independent thinkers, is mentoring them. What you see at many times is the person inherently is an independent thinker, wants to really come up with creative ideas with very differentiated inputs. But at times people sort of in the need to adjust the organization to sort of align themselves with other team members, be seen as somebody who's a good team member, may just sort of subdue their own independent thinking. And that's where it's important that you as a leader sort of mentor that person. And wherever you see glimpses that you need to give it extra nudge, or just make things comfortable for the person, you need to do that immediately and proactively. And I think the third is it's all about the freedom you give the person. It's all about walking the talk, right? We can keep telling people about the importance of independence. We can keep telling people about how we want to promote the whole aspect and all. But if your actions are in the opposite direction, then very soon you will start seeing even those who were coming up with independent ideas, with independent thoughts, will sort of want to sort of follow the line. So that's again the third most important aspect, that as a leader, what is it that you're promoting? Are you in your actions, and these could be very basic actions, say in a team meeting, or you're interacting with, a person either one-to-one or even as a group, what sort of a messaging you're conveying in terms of your reciprocation to ideas, your willingness to hear new ideas. I think that again makes a big difference. And at times, this could be the most important factor, that even if you're not really conveying something, but your behavior, your actions may actually be talking a different language and sending out some very strong messages to the individual. So to my mind, I think it's a continuous process. Starts with right at the recruitment stage. Um, the way you mentor the person, the way you sort of onboard the person, make that person comfortable and aligned to, the importance you give to independent thinking, and finally, the actions which you actually show in day-to-day life. There are strengths of marketing, being an independent function, especially when it comes to being seen as a gatekeeper of the brand, understanding the brand a lot more than anybody else does across all the stakeholders. So yes, that's where marketing can excel, should excel. The other strength I would say is in terms of being able to understand the long-term trends. Most of the other functions, if you see, are sort of focused on the day-to-day life. Sales, if you see, is all about saying, have we achieved the target this month? What's the sort of goalpost that we're running behind for this quarter and things like that. While a lot of marketing also it tends to be that, but a good marketing team would essentially focus on the long term, right? What's the sort of larger trends that you're picking up? Where are you taking the brand over the long term in terms of preference with consumers, awareness, and all? And at the same time, creating the demand, because that's what essentially marketing is all about. So how do you sort of create a roadmap where the demand is being generated? So that's where a strong marketing team can really sort of add value to the business. I think the weakness, if I see from a marketer perspective today, is um, many times there is this sort of inherent thing within the team members that I'm different from business, I'm different from the others, so I need to think that way. To my mind, I think finally marketing is part of the whole business, right? It's not really a support unit or a different unit. It is an integral part of the business. And the more the team members, the marketing team sort of understands this aspect and aligns itself, I think that is a weakness which can really can be turned into a strength. From an opportunity perspective, I think there are lots of opportunities, especially today. If you see the society we live in, the way technology has been helping everybody replicate solutions very fast. For instance, when you look at our industry, life insurance, essentially we don't have a product. We just have a promise which is put on paper saying, tomorrow if you want to fulfill an aspiration, for instance, buy a house or the dream vacation, and you bought a guaranteed income product from me, and I'm assuring you that I'll pay you that amount of money at the right point of time when you need it. So there's really limited differentiation in that case, and it can be copied. So how do you bring those nuances in your differentiation, right? And not focusing more on the emotional aspect, the softer aspects, rather than the rational or the product feature driven aspect. So that becomes a big differentiator. And we've clearly seen brands, across the world, some of them with very prominent names, wherein the sort of pull that brand has today is, and despite not really having the best of the products or the most innovative solutions, is something simply amazing. So that's a great opportunity that any marketing sort of strong marketing team has, that they can really add a lot of value to the business. And if I look at the threats perspective, I think clearly the one area that it comes across is this whole debate between technology and marketing, right? And I think it's all getting blurred today. So a marketer simply thinking that I'm going to be creative, I'm going to talk about communication, and not really wanting to align with the other aspects of the business, especially technology, is a big threat. Because today I've seen many marketers who become CTOs as well, and nothing stops from some other function, for instance a business function, saying, okay, I can also handle marketing. Essentially, it's all common sense at the end of the day. Marketing needs to keep evolving, it needs to keep understanding what's the value it brings to the business, how can it sort of work together with the other function. Because ultimately, for any business, the main objective is, are you moving in the direction of profitability? Are you moving in the direction of your consumers being delighted with you and keep coming back to you? And that's, to my mind, what any marketer should sort of keep at the back of the mind.